Hi, Room 72. Hi again. Today, we are going to finish the book Holes, and that means that each and every one of you can take an AR quiz and hopefully get a good 5 points from this book. I will check my AR report and see how you guys did. I also want to mention that the teachers are going to record a video and with messages to you guys, just like saying hello. So look for that in a few days, maybe next week sometime, on the Edmondson Elementary website. Mr. Diaz will put it up, but I'll send your parents a message on Remind so that you can see it. Okay? All right, guys, here's the end of Holes by Louis Sachar. Stanley and Zero sat in the back seat of Miss Marengo's BMW. The suitcase lay between them. It was locked, and they decided they'd let Stanley's father try to open it in his workshop. "You don't know what's in it, do you?" she asked. "No," said Stanley. "I didn't think so." The air conditioning was on, but they drove with the windows open as well because, no offense, but you boys really smell bad. Miss Marengo explained that she was a patent attorney. "I'm helping your father with the new product he's invented. He happened to mention your situation, so I did a little investigating. Clyde Livingston's sneakers were stolen sometime before 3:15. I found a young man, Derek Dunn, who said that at 3:20 you were in the bathroom fishing your notebook out of the toilet. 2 girls remembered seeing you come out of the boys' restroom carrying a wet notebook." Stanley felt his ears redden. Even after everything he'd been through, the memories still caused him to feel shame. "So you couldn't have stolen them," said Miss Marengo. "He didn't. I did," said Zero. "You did what?" asked Miss Marengo. "I stole the sneakers." The lawyer actually turned around while driving and looked at him. "I didn't hear that," she said, "and I advise you to make sure I didn't hear it again." "What did my father invent?" Stanley asked. "Did he find a way to recycle sneakers?" "No, he's still working on that," explained Miss Marengo. "But he invented a product that eliminates foot odor. Here, I've got a sample in my briefcase. I wish I had more. You two could bathe in it." She opened her briefcase with one hand and passed a small bottle back to Stanley. It had a fresh and somewhat spicy smell. He handed it to Zero. "What do you think it smells like, guys? It says fresh and somewhat spicy. Anything that reminds you of that really smells fresh and a little spicy? Just think while I read on here." "What's it called?" Stanley asked. "We haven't come up with a name yet," said Miss Marengo. "It smells familiar," said Zero. "Peaches, right?" asked Miss Marengo. "That's what everyone says." "So it smells like sploosh, right? Coincidence? I don't think so." A short while later, both boys fell asleep. Behind them, the sky had turned dark, and for the first time in over 100 years, a drop of rain fell into the empty lake. What do you think the symbolism of that drop of water means? It's never rained. Now it's raining. Does it mean the curse has finally been broken? Well, that's my inference. And if I think back, I think, well, Stanley's father invented something that's successful for the very first time. Stanley carried Zero up the hill. Stanley sang to Zero by the water that ran uphill through Big Thumb. All these pieces are falling together, and now it's raining, okay? I'm thinking maybe this is a new start for the Yelnats family, and the curse is over. Also for the Zeroni family. Let's see. Here we go. Part 3, Filling in the Holes. That is the title of the last chapter of the book, which we are going to read right now, chapter 50. Stanley's mother insists that there never was a curse. She even doubts whether Stanley's great-great-grandfather really stole a pig. The reader might find it interesting, however, that Stanley's father invented his cure for foot odor the day after the great-great-grandson of Elia Yelnats carried the great-great-great-grandson of Madame Zeroni up the mountain. The Attorney General closed Camp Green Lake. Ms. Walker, who was in desperate need of money, had to sell the land which had been in her family for generations. It was bought up by a national organization dedicated to the well-being of young girls. In a few years, Camp Green Lake will become a Girl Scout camp. This is pretty much the end of the story. The reader probably still has some questions, but unfortunately, from here on in, the answers tend to be long and tedious. While Mrs. Bell, Stanley's former math teacher, might want to know the percentage change in Stanley's weight, the reader probably cares more about the change in Stanley's character and self-confidence. But those changes are subtle and hard to measure. There is no simple answer. Even the contents of the suitcase turned out to be somewhat tedious. Tedious means lots of details and not like a super clear wad of money or something, but something that takes a while to figure out. Stanley's father pried it open in his workshop, and at first everyone gasped at the sparkling jewels. Stanley thought he and Hector had become millionaire, but the jewels were of poor quality, worth no more than $20,000. That's still a lot, right? Underneath the jewels was a stack of papers that had once belonged to the first Stanley Yelnats. These consisted of stock certificates, deeds of trust, and promissory notes. So all those pieces of paper are worth money. They were hard to read and even more difficult to understand. Miss Marengo's law firm spent more than 2 months going through all the papers, but they turned out to be a lot more valuable than the jewels. After legal fees and taxes, Stanley and Zero each received less than $1 million, but not a lot less. It was enough for Stanley to buy his family a new house with a laboratory in the basement and for Hector to hire a team of private investigators. For what do you think? What does he want private investigators for? Ding ding, to find his mother? But it would be boring to go through all the tedious details of all the changes in their lives. Instead, the reader will be presented with one last scene, which took place almost a year and a half after Stanley and Hector left Camp Green Lake. You will have to fill in the holes yourself. There was a small party at the Yelnats' house. Except for Stanley and Hector, everyone there was an adult. All kinds of snacks and drinks were set out on the counter, including caviar, champagne, and the fixings to make ice cream sundaes. The Super Bowl was on television, but nobody was really watching. It should be coming on at the next break, Miss Marengo announced. A timeout was called in the football game, and a commercial came on the screen. Everybody stopped talking and watched. The commercial showed a baseball game. Amid a cloud of dust, Clyde Livingston slid into home plate as the catcher caught the ball and tried to tag him out. "Safe!" shouted the umpire as he signaled with his arms. The people at Stanley's house cheered as if the run really counted. Clyde Livingston got up and dusted the dirt off his uniform. As he made his way out of the dugout, he spoke to the camera. "Hi, I'm Clyde Livingston, but everyone around here calls me Sweet Feet." "Way to go, Sweet Feet," said another baseball player, slapping his hand. Besides being on the television screen, Clyde Livingston was also sitting on the couch next to Stanley. "But my feet weren't always sweet," the television Clyde Livingston said as he sat down on the dugout bench. "They used to smell so bad that nobody would sit near me in the dugout." "They really did stink," said the woman sitting on the couch on the other side of Clyde. She held her nose with one hand and fanned the air with the other. Clyde shushed her. "Then a teammate told me about sploosh," said the television Clyde. He pulled a can of sploosh out from under the dugout bench and held it up for everyone to see. "I just spray a little on each foot every morning, and now I really do have sweet feet. Plus, I like the tingle. Sploosh, said a voice, a treat for your feet. Made from all natural ingredients, it neutralizes odor, causing fungi and bacteria. Plus, you'll like the tingle. Everyone at the party clapped their hands. He wasn't lying, said the woman who sat next to Clyde. I couldn't even be in the same room with his socks. The other people at the party laughed. The woman continued, I'm not joking. It was so bad. You've made your point, said Clyde, covering her mouth with his hand. He looked back at Stanley. Will you do me a favor, Stanley? Stanley raised and lowered his left shoulder. I'm going to get more caviar, said Clyde. Keep your hand over my wife's mouth. He patted Stanley on the shoulder as he rose from the couch. Stanley looked uncertainly at his hand, then at Clyde Livingston's wife. She winked at him. He felt himself blush and turned away toward Hector, who was sitting on the floor in front of an overstuffed chair. A woman sitting in the chair behind Hector was absent-mindedly fluffing his hair with her fingers. She wasn't very old, but her skin had a weathered look to it, almost like leather. Her eyes seemed weary, as if she'd seen too many things in her life that she didn't want to see. And when she smiled, her mouth seemed to be too big for her face, just like Hector and Madame Zeroni. Very softly, she half sang, half hummed a song that her grandmother used to sing to her when she was a little girl. This is the famous song that Stanley's parents sang to him, and and so on. The famous one that Madame Zeroni originally taught her children. But we didn't know what the whole thing was, but now I'm going to tell you what the whole song is. It says, if only the moon speaks no reply, reflecting the sun and all that's gone by. Be strong, my weary wolf, turn around boldly, fly high, my baby bird, my angel, my only. The end. I have goosebumps from it. Room 72. I promise you that we will see this movie together and we will have a celebration and a party. I'm not sure when it will be, but no matter how long it takes, we will meet back in our classrooms, room 72, for our celebration. We're gonna break out some pizza. We're gonna break out soda. We're gonna break out Takis, chips. We're gonna break out some chocolate chip cookies that Allison's gonna make, and we are gonna enjoy ourselves and watch that movie because it is really good. And I hope you all take your AR quizzes. I'm gonna be checking, and I hope to be able to announce that who passed the test. And I'll do one whole follow-up video and talk about who passed the test and a couple other interesting things about holes. Okay, goodbye, have a great afternoon, miss you all.